Brothers and sisters, what an absolutely fantastic and inspiring day we've had. At the end of another troubling week, we could have just stayed at home, brothers and sisters. We could have moped around. We could have listened to our Leonard Cohen records. But we didn't. We came here and together we found the antidote to all that's been troubling us in the strength and solidarity of our fantastic British trade union movement and all those fighting back represented here today. And boy, do we need that antidote. Brexit unleashed in our country widespread hate and intolerance, and it felt as if it had been legitimised. Despicable Theresa May, despicable May, and her nasty Tories haven't done anything to try and stop it. In fact, what we know is they've tried to whip it up, creating a register or talking about creating a register of foreign workers. And the austerity cuts and the cuts to our wages and the cuts to services, particularly our NHS, have fuelled the anti-immigrant sentiment. Wages are still held down, and most of us continue to live from payday to payday. Post-Brexit inflation means that we're now worried even about the rising cost of Marmite, let alone the rising cost of rent and fuel and mortgages. Income inequality continues to rise rapidly. In the year 2000, in America and in the United Kingdom, the average wage of a chief executive was around 20 to 30 times that of their employees. Today, they are paid 300 times that of the average worker. Now, nobody actually earns that much money. It isn't the Chinese who are raping our economies, as Donald Trump has said. It is the bastard bosses. In Victorian Britain, the poorest 90% had only 10% of the wealth. Today, in modern Britain, the bottom 40% have only 3% of the wealth between them. That's actually less, statistically, than the Victorian poor had. Many in Britain today live in grinding and inescapable poverty, living in squalid housing, paying extortionate rents, barely surviving on ever-decreasing benefits or poverty pay 0 hours contracts, having their benefits stopped because they're sanctioned or found fit for work by companies that are making millions of pounds of profit by making those cruel and callous decisions, forced to use food banks in the sixth richest economy. And comrades, isn't it shocking to find out, as we found out from the papers this week, that in Britain, a state school head teacher is now earning, not all of them, but one state school head teacher is now earning £375,000, well, they're getting paid £375,000 a year, while the biggest group of food bank users that's increasing is our children in this country. So I want to pay tribute to Ken Loach for his absolutely masterful film, I, Daniel Blake, which has been referenced many times today, probably the most powerful film that we will see this decade. He has brought these absolutely shocking truths to every town and city in our country, writ large, up there on the big screen. And I want to pay tribute to our colleagues in DPAC who remind us every day and every time we see them on every single protest that that is not fiction, it is real life. We have to pledge ourselves, brothers and sisters, to stand in solidarity with all the Daniel Blakes who live in our country today until we restore real social security, until we've got decent fair pay, and until we've abolished the obscene need for food banks in this incredibly rich country. brothers and sisters, while the US is still the most unequal society on the planet, the UK is now third. And at the rate that we're increasing our inequality, which we are at a tremendous rate, it's predicted that by 2030, Britain will actually have overtaken the US in that obscene table. In America, in 2008, whole streets were repossessed by the banks. Their shops then shut, their town halls were boarded up, and many of their towns still look like that today. Their pay has stagnated for 15 years. I don't believe, brothers and sisters, that the American working class are simply racist and sexist. That talk, I believe, is just more divide and rule. What these people are is absolutely, utterly desperate. And desperate people do desperate things. They pawn their stuff in the shops. They spend money they haven't got in the bookies and on online gambling. They rack up massive debt. And yes, they even vote for Donald Trump. Let down by Obama, failed by weak trade unions, offered no real alternative to horrible austerity by Hillary Clinton. People voted against the same old shit, thinking that it probably couldn't get any worse. But of course, it really can. In America, they will quickly see the true cost of voting for Donald Trump. It won't be as funny as The Simpsons made it seem, as rights are restricted and hatred and division fueled and nothing gained. The Ku Klux Klan are already organising a victory parade to celebrate Trump coming to power, and already horrible instances of hate are being recorded on their streets. So I want to pay tribute today to all those Americans who are already protesting and organising before Trump's even taken office. Here, most people can see the futility and danger of Trump. And I think Farage fawning over Trump will probably only further expose UKIP. Thank God we've still got Corbyn. And I want to pay tribute today to everyone who fought all summer to make sure that we kept Corbyn. Let's redouble our efforts, though, brothers and sisters, to fight for fair pay. Let's learn from the massive mistakes that we've seen in America. Let's redouble our efforts to fight for fair pay, to fight for decent jobs. And I want to pay tribute to everyone we've seen and heard from today who's doing that. Starting off with, for me, if I'd only heard Megan Charlton today, it would have been worth coming down to London just for that. Those teaching assistants, the Ritzy strikers, the Fujitsu strikers, of course, the Barnet Library strikers. Also, I would want to pay tribute to the Kinsley three women cleaners in Wakefield, near where I live. Today's their 49th day of all-out strike action. Amazing. They aren't just fighting for their pay and jobs. They are pushing back to protect all of our living standards. Your fight really is our fight. Absolute solidarity to you. But I tell you who I don't want to pay tribute to today. I don't want to pay tribute to the media. The mainstream media, they treat us like mushrooms, they keep us in the dark, and they feed us absolute bullshit. Their bias is utterly extreme, but also the way that they trivialise everything and treat us as if we're stupid. On Tuesday, the big story in the news was Toblerone. The triangles were a different shape, or it was a big size difference or something. Of course, Wednesday was wall-to-wall Trump. But Thursday, we were back to more trivia, the John Lewis advert. Now, you know, I like boxer dogs bouncing up and down on a trampoline as much as the next person. But this is not news. This is trivia. We need an absolute, urgent, total reform of our media, which is letting us down very badly in this country. Finally, brothers and sisters, I want to pay tribute to Jeremy Corbyn, who stood firm for us since the day he was elected. On the way down here, I read a very sad article, which is a poll that they've done in America, which says that actually if Bernie Sanders had stood instead of Clinton, he would have won with 56% of the vote. Just think about that for a minute. He would have won, we wouldn't have had Trump, but we would have had a socialist president of the United States. So yes, I pay tribute to Jeremy Corbyn, because when the next general election comes, we won't have to hold our nose as we go into the ballot box. We won't be facing the choice of the same old shit. We will have a decent socialist candidate offering a real alternative to working people in this country for the first time in decades. But until then, we can't just wait. Nor can we give people a chance, as Hillary Clinton suggested, giving Trump a chance to lead. No, we will be striking. We will be marching for our NHS. We will be marching to stand up against racism, protesting every cut and every attack and every nasty idea that these people have. We will unite. We will resist. We are going to fight them every step of the way. And when I look out in this room today, I know that together we can win. Thank you, comrades.